Amphoreus. It's confirmed to be ancient Greece as many speculated, but we have some new info about it. I'll cover an updated prediction of the 3 parts, the new characters and some guesses about the plot. However, we should start with the elephant in the room, Honkai Impact 3rd. Now, I assume a lot of you don't want to know about HI3, and some of you probably skip Stariel's cutscenes too, but don't worry, I'll keep this brief. You've already heard Amphoreus is inspired by the Flame Chaser and the Elysian Realm, the former a group of people and the latter a place. Honkai Impact is the story of humanity's second attempt at stopping the Honkai, an invasive force of nature. The Flame Chasers were the front line of its attempt, 50,000 years prior. Though they ultimately failed, they set in motion a number of projects to help the next wave of humanity succeed, and uploaded copies of themselves to a simulation, the Elysian Realm, in which they could pass on their experience personally. Keep these 2 iterations of the Flame Chasers in mind, but for now let's talk about XPs. Both they and the Chrysos Heirs number 13, but only 4 of them perfectly aligned. Cyrene is clearly a younger take on Elysia. They have the same hairstyle and ornament, as well as eye color, mannerisms, and voice actors. Phanon is the leader of the Flame Chasers, Kevin, who is associated with giant swords and deliverance. Anaxagoras is Sue. Both are known for their wisdom and are associated with giant trees. Anax's rings also match the ring-like tattoo on Sue's forefinger. These 3 XPs make even more sense considering Elysia already had a lot of Greek theming, and both Kevin and Sue spent time in Earth's ancient Greece. Finally, Sephira is part of Felis. Not only are their outfits identical, both are catgirls. Keep in mind their personalities don't need to match. Sela, Bronya, and Akron have varying levels of character in common with their Honkai Impact selves after all. The next batch of XPs I'm less convinced of. Hyacine, the woman amid water, is likely Eden. Both have long hair and are associated with the vessels. Eden always carries a goblet, and if you look closely, Hyacine is producing water from one too. Castorese's tiara and creepy vibes remind me of the morally dubious Mobius, along with her association with dragons tying with Mobius and her snakes, while Tribi being mechanical with multiple forms brings to mind Vilvi, an inventor with multiple personalities. While Midamos may be Kalpus, I think Kalpus is actually the masked man shown at the end of the Amphoreus trailer holding a flame, since that sums Kalpus up quite well too. The final stretch of characters are the stretches. Aglaia says she's tasked with weaving destinies and is surrounded by threads representing them. Aponia was a psychic who could also see fate and predict the future. Either Hyacine or Seritra could be Grisio, the child of the group. Seritra shares her colours, but Hyacine's description of a sleeper who needs to be awoken in the sky calls to mind Grisio's fate of surviving the Honkai in stasis on a spaceship, on top of also looking like a child. The man we briefly see in the desert could be Cosmo due to the cloak, and the small hidden girl in red could be Fuhua. And to wrap this up, one of the monsters in the fresco sequence looks like a titan with multiple red and black eyes. Said eyes resemble the Hersher of Corruptions, the villain of the Elysian Realm arc in Honkai Impact. With the XPs done, what or who else does everyone represent? To start, Chrysos was a minor god and the personification of gold, hence those who inherited golden blood being the Chrysos heirs. Chrysos is also a word meaning cocoon, due to both having a similar coloration, and cocoons also have importance to Honkai Impact, but I'll leave it at that. Aglaia is one of the 3 charities, Greek goddesses of, among others, charm, beauty, and creativity. These match her role as dressmaker, with the latter also fitting her apparent job of weaving fates. I think Tribi is a reference to Hecate, a goddess of crossroads portrayed with 3 faces or bodies, with the symbolism swapped doorways. However, her role of messenger and her winged boots reference Hermes as well. Anaxagoras is named after a philosopher with many modern ideas, such as the sun being a star. However, he was exiled for heresy, which matches this Anax's description as being foolish yet able to dispel faith. Hyacine may just be Hyacinth, a flower representing spring and rebirth, as befitting a child who needs to wake up. The flower was named after one of Hollow's love interests / victims too. All I can find for Midamos is Deimos, son of Ares and Aphrodite and the personification of fear before battle, which is odd since we see him in battle in the trailer. The only translation for Kremnos I can find is Steep Cliff, which I guess sounds intimidating. That's either the name of his lion companion, whatever titan his core flame comes from, or both. Sephira comes from Cypher meaning 0, which may relate to her power over time. Of note, she's also the only one with a second name given. Maybe she's interacted with the foreigners and gave herself an easier to pronounce name. Paudophilis was a merchant who spoke to a lot of people and got around a lot, so that could be the justification here. Assuming, of course, this isn't a translation or localization snafu. Castorese is explicitly the daughter of the river Styx in the trailer. Her ability to let the dead pass on calls to mind Charon, the boatman of the river, but the Greek Styx had 2 daughters, Nike, the goddess of victory, and be the embodiment of force. Perhaps she'll also borrow from those and be strong in-universe, though I suppose the dragon answers that for us. Cyrene is both a place name and a princess who wrestled a lion to save her father's animals, but this made her another of Apollo's victims. At least this way Cyrene has a link to archery like Elysia, I guess. Finally, Phaenon appears to be an epithet for Kronos/Saturn, the head titan. However, I've also seen a website saying it's actually an epithet for Jupiter or Zeus, but either way I think it fits his apparent role as a king-to-be in Amphoreus. I couldn't find anything for the last two myself, but Gosu Gamers suggested Isolans could reference a Pythian princess and granddaughter of Zeus, while Ceridra could be Ceres, a goddess of agriculture. As for place names, Amphoreus may come from Amphora, which is a large vessel, while Okema, Aglaea's city, is also a vessel, but for the soul. If other places will also be named after containers, I'm near convinced Pythos will be an important one, which was the type of job Pandora opened. Perhaps that's where the big bad is hiding, or where Cyrene comes from. With the characters done, the parts, we know there are 3 in play, but I think there used to be a 4th. The Eye at the start of the trailer bears a strong resemblance to Enna, who is known for building up glorious civilizations that later collapsed, as Amphoreus did. This debt may be the Black Tide even, but Enna is long gone, and while their path remains, it may not be as important anymore. However, Remembrance is important enough to be a playable path, so that's a safe bet. The trailer gave us a big surprise though. The imagery of a bleeding eclipse has until now been associated with Nanook, and the blood-covered hand later also looks like this. I'll return to this, but the destruction may be the antagonist again. Some further evidence is Aglaea's golden markings over her heart, which resemble the marks on Fugue and Phantilia's shoulders, who are both associated with destruction. Funnily enough, the third path is the only one confirmed as of 2.7, erudition. I gave my reasoning for this in my previous video, but the short version is, according to Cosmodesy, Amphoreus has a script-generating supercomputer, and I think this will expand on Noosa's moments seen in Golden Gears. There's potential for a lot of existential horror there. Now the plot. Remember the hand slamming a chess piece on the underside of the board in the trailer, hard enough to disrupt it? This could be one of the Lord Ravagers, specifically the one said to study the opponent closely and act just like a chess master. Is this assumption on the nose? Yes, but our only exposure to them is a paragraph from a collectible item, so I think it's warranted. I think this is a villain for Amphoreus and why destruction is one of its main parts. That said, destruction may have already won. Remember the Elysian realm. It was a space for people to live on after they died so they could help the next generation of fighters, and Fuli's end goal is recreating the universe from recorded memories after it's destroyed. So perhaps Amphoreus was already destroyed and rebuilt, either by Fuli themselves or an Emanator, but the destruction was either also rebuilt or came back for round 2. Aglaea and the new Trailblazers bios mention an endless journey and memories will flourish eternally, respectively, while Aglaea says Amphoreus needs rebirth and the latter says memories will pave the path for the journey ahead. It's even called the Eternal Land. What if Amphoreus has been trapped in a cycle, thus the infinity symbol Herta uses to represent it? This wouldn't even be the first sci-fi game about a simulation with an inbuilt apocalypse, though it won't spoil the identity of the other. But even if Amphoreus is looping, the latter 2 quotes suggest there is a way for the inhabitants to escape, so they fare better than the Elysian realm occupant at least. I have an extension of this idea, but it's very out there. If we assume the Eye at the start of the trailer is indeed Enna, the titans they sent are probably Emanators, but remember how spilling golden blood on one was all it took for their hand to resemble Nanook? So what if the Emanator was Nanook pre-Ascension? After all, we don't know where Adlevan was before their Ascension destroyed it, or even if that was a name given to the planet by outsiders or a native one. For all we know, Amphoreus is Adlevan, just lost to history after news or their Emanator restored it, and the restored civilization gave it a different name. In this case, the Black Tide could be a mix of the Swarm Disaster and First Emperor's War. As we know, those events led to Nanook's ascension. Maybe Amphoreus loops because the version of Nanook keeps ascending there. Even if I'm wrong, 2.7 confirmed the presence of an Emanator or even Eon there, and instead of asking about Amphoreus itself, Herta asked Nous to define divinity. So I believe the 3.0 story will delve deep into Emanators and Eons both. Perhaps the Titans are strong enough to count as gods, or she's curious how one becomes a god. Also from 2.7, if Himiko's suspicion is true, perhaps no one knows of Amphoreus because someone erases all memories of it from outsiders. Anyway, I tried to map the Chrysos Heirs and Cyrene to Greek gods, since they're set up to be a second set of heroes after the 12 Titans. I spoke about Phaenon, but if the antagonist is indeed the chess master, they're probably representing Athena, the god of strategic warfare as well as pure wisdom. Finally, Cyrene is likely Aphrodite, given she's an XP of Elysia, who loved all of humanity, and Aphrodite being the oldest and strongest Olympian in some versions of Greek myth fit her as well. But I wasn't sure what to make of that that line of reasoning, so I've just left it here as a bonus theory. To end on a fun fact, the way Albert and the trailer description shout Amphoreus before describing it is probably a reference to Greek poems which also begin by declaring their key element or theme, such as the Iliad beginning with wrath. While it'd be harder to cover, I hope the music video for 3.0 is a Greek-styled hymn or poem of some sort, which would be amazing. Also, more British or Greek accents maybe? I wouldn't say no to those either. Thank you all for your time. Please like and subscribe to help the channel out, and also let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love to hear your own theories or opinions on mine. No leaks or spoilers please, that goes without saying. Thanks again, and as always, have a great day.